All right, well, thanks for having me, first of all.
Yeah, of course.
Name's Antoine Martel. I have a turnkey company. We do, just different from this, it's called Martel Turnkey, but we buy, rehab, and then resell with tenants in place, cash flowing. So it's a turnkey company. We do 100 projects per year. But also, with that business, I'm in a bunch of different markets: Memphis, Cleveland, Birmingham, St. Louis. So I already have teams on the ground in all those markets, which then when a multifamily comes across my desk, I can have somebody go and check out the property very quickly because I already have people and boots on the ground who are able to go and walk the deals, let me know about the neighborhood, stuff like that. So with that, this was a deal that we picked up in December. This is the building. It's a 20-unit apartment building in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's get it. So again, this is a case study about a project that we acquired, renovated, and now we're currently holding it. Disclaimer. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, shoot. Well, that's the property. The Monroe Apartments, Memphis, Tennessee. So some property information. That's the property address. It's 20 units, built in 1964. Average rents when we bought the property were anywhere from like $495 all the way up to $625, but the average was around $560. Property occupancy was 100%. All the units were 1 bedroom, 1 bath units. We bought it for $985. They wanted 1.1. We got it under contract for $1 million, then we negotiated a little bit after that. So the loan amount that we got was $650. That's the max that we can get, and it wasn't through Freddie Mac. It was actually like an unconventional lender because it's below the $1 million Freddie Mac amount. So then our total equity was $545 that we had to come up with. We didn't syndicate the deal. We did the deal with all of our own money. So that includes the total equity, includes the down payment plus the renovation budget, which was around $110,000, $120,000 for the interior and the exterior. The business plan for the property was a couple things. So first was increasing the rents. Second was creating a community, and then third was to incorporate professional management. So first and most important was increasing the rents. So the rents when we bought the property were $560 per unit. We estimated the market rents when we bought it to be $725. You'll see later what actually happened. Second objective was to create a community. So the building had not been renovated in 20 years. The guy bought it 20 years ago, updated some of the units, but then he didn't give a crap about the exterior or building a community or making people feel welcome or safe or comfortable. So that's something we did by we painted the brick. That's the photo you saw at the beginning is actually old. We painted the brick, we built a new wooden fence around it, we removed all the bars off the windows and off the doors, we paved the courtyard, and now we're going to put in some tables and chairs for people to actually hang out and vibe with each other to kind of create a community. Third thing, incorporate professional management. So the past owner was actually self-managing. So we think that by going in and putting professional property management in place who can get to the property quicker and has a crew of people that actually come and make the repairs instead of Joe coming to your unit every time we make a phone call and then him calling somebody else to come and fix the place. Having professional management who is more accountable and reliable. Next one. So the property is in Midtown Memphis. So why Midtown Memphis? A couple of things. First of all, the high job growth, so 13.6% increase from 2009 to 2015. Millennial population growth, so I'll show you a map of where the property is exactly later, but there's been a ton of millennials and younger generation people moving into this neighborhood, so it's more like a hipster, up-and-coming neighborhood. Which is why there's multiple hipster hotspots, Keep It Young, Overton Square, Crosstown Concourse, all of those are about a mile in each different direction from the property. And then also low unemployment rate, so 10% in 2009 down to 4.3 in 2017. So here's a map. So that's the left is going to be. This is downtown Memphis. That's where the property is, and then you can see there's the key over there. So you kind of have the medical district on the left of the property, and then to the right you have a couple of hipster hotspots, plus all new apartment buildings being built. And then right next to the property, right here is like a brand new Starbucks. This is a hospital, and this is like a whole bunch of hospitals where there's tons of jobs. And then this is a really bad neighborhood over here, and then up here is a really rough neighborhood too. So the only place for people to live if they want to live and work in downtown in a medical district is to go east. So that's why they're building all these new apartment buildings, where they're building the new Starbucks. So that's the path of progress where everybody's kind of shifting to in Memphis, if you want to live and work downtown or in that medical corridor. So why this property? So we bought it for $50K a unit, $1 million divided by 20 units, $50K per unit. The property was owner managed, so there was ability to bring in professional property management, which is what I spoke about. The rents were way below market. We can increase the rents by around 50%. The property was also sold to us with a brand new roof. That was part of the negotiation. It was like, okay, we'll buy this property for your really high price if you do these renovations. And one of those was the new roof, which he did. Everything else he didn't do. The property was fully occupied with month-to-month tenants, and every single one of them was month-to-month tenants. And they were living there, some of them for like the past 10 or 15 years. So it allowed us, with the month-to-month tenants, to actually do rental increases from day one. We can go to the bottom tenants who are paying $475 when the market was $725, and we can go to them and say, hey, the new rent is going to be $750, $725. Would you sign a new lease at $650, $675? So from day one, we were able to increase our NOI of the building, right? Next. Now the renovation. So that's, again, the exterior of the property before we started painting it, before we're doing the landscaping, before everything. We also built a fence, like you see a chain link fence on the left. We built a big wooden fence that's 8 foot tall around the property as well. So this is that courtyard I was talking about. So these poles were not even, they were swaying. So we went and walked the property, and these are not even attached to the concrete pad on the ground. So this was a total safety hazard. And this little piece right here was hanging by like a half an inch of metal, was what was attaching all of this together. So the thing was a total safety hazard. The day one, we tore down that whole thing, and then we rebuilt it to what you see on the right hand side. We paved, repaved the whole center courtyard, and now we're going to install like some tables and a chair, or put a barbecue with a lock on it so people can barbecue or hang out instead of like unusable space. And the garden may look good in the picture, but it was not in this place. Then over here too, we're going to install like some lights that are crisscrossing across the top of the building, so it'll look much better and create more of a community aspect. Next. All right, here's the interior of the units. So we painted it. That's tile flooring that we put on the floor, and you can see the rubble on the left-hand side. It was the black and white tile, like from the 1960s, and it was all throughout the whole, like the basement, the kitchen, and the living room was all this black and white tile. So we tore that up, we repainted it, put new tile flooring in. This is the bathroom, so we took that same tile flooring, put it in the floor there, also up on the tub, put a new tub in, new toilet, new vanity, new light, and that's what it looked like before. Then the kitchen, same thing. We put new cabinets if we needed to, if they were not in good shape, but then stainless steel appliances, and granite countertops, and a new backsplash. So we spent a little bit more money than we would have, but you'll see what will happen in the next slide from doing such a high-end renovation.
If you're able to keep the cabinets, you just paint them, or you just keep them the same?
We would paint them and then put new hardware. All right, so this is kind of how we did it. So at purchase, the rents were $560. We estimated to be $725, but what we actually got was $850 per month. Just at the time when we finally took the final photos and started talking to some potential tenants, people came to us and they wanted to rent it out for $850, and there was high demand at the $850 number. So we decided to start marketing it out at $850 for a 1-year lease, $825 for 2-year leases. So we've been getting tenants signing those 1 or 2 year leases.
This is a 40-unit building. How many square feet was it?
Square feet, so it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, so it's 700, 600 square feet.
Per unit?
Yep. So the total income at purchase was $134. After stabilization was over 200, which then brings our NOI from 600 grand all the way up to 140 after we stabilized it. So what we expected, I underwrite super conservatively. So we bought it at a 7 cap. I was expecting a 5-year hold and selling it at an 8 cap. So it was really conservative underwriting. The first number, the 545, is how much money we put in, right? So 545 in year 1, we're expecting to make 12 grand, which is because of the high renovation, high vacancy, because we're turning over the units. There's tons of vacant units for a long period of time. And also all the tenants were on super low rents, so there's barely any income coming in. Year 2 is when we actually stabilize the property, and it's going to be stable all the way to year 5, where we assume a sale in 5 years at an 8 cap rate, and I bought it for a 7. So that kind of gives you the IRR, or internal rate of return, which is 15% over a 5-year period. And that's kind of my number when analyzing deals, is a 15% IRR over a 5-year hold at a higher cap rate. What actually ended up happening, because we were able to rent the units over 725 for 750, we were able to get much higher rents. So instead of making $60,000, we made $90,000 every single year until year 5, and then we sold it. So our IRR went from 15 to now 25%. And this is the management team. So that's me on the top, my brother in the middle, and my dad on the bottom. And then that's my contact info. That's it. Cool.
So we'll take questions for 15-20 minutes, and if anyone's interested in getting in apartments, I'm sure you have a lot of questions for Antoine and kind of how he did it. So, Matt?
Yeah, in terms of financing, would there have been any benefit to being over that $1 million level?
Oh, yeah.
To get the Fannie Mae?
Oh, yeah.
Being below?
Oh yeah, my interest rate, my loan to value was like 60%, as you saw, because I bought it for $1 million. My loan was 600 or 650 right in there. So 60-65%, and my interest rate 6.5%. So that IRR that I'm showing is without a refinance, right? That's selling in year 5, but at the end of this year, I'm planning, which is year 1, to do a refinance with Freddie Mac. Because I bought the building for $1 million, now it's worth $2 million. Now I can go and get a loan and do a refinance with Freddie Mac. My interest rate will go from 6.5% to 4.7, 4.6%.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Freddie Mac is an agency. It's an agency lender, right? So it's basically government-backed debt. Freddie Mac does not allow loans of under $1 million. They will in certain circumstances, but generally speaking, the loan amount, not the purchase price, but the loan amount needs to be above $1 million for them to take that on. So his is below that, so he had to go a different route with a local bank.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
I was curious, how did you come up with the 8 cap? You had a 7 cap after it stabilized. Don't you expect like a lower cap rate?
It's just being conservative. So the market over there is anywhere from 7 to 8 cap. Like trading, right? Apartment buildings trading at 7 to 8. So I was just being conservative with the higher cap rate.
Okay. How much did you put in there? Was it total?
110, 120. That includes exterior renovation plus all the interior units.
Did you just assume the expenses to stay constant, or did you not plan on cutting those at all, or was there just no opportunity to do so?
The guy was running it super slim, so we took their expenses, then we added in property management, then we added in exact documents, and then we added in landscaping because the guy was not doing that either.
Yeah.
So yeah, we took what he had and then added in little things that we wanted as well. Yeah.
Okay.
But when we bought it, I think it was at like 50% operating expenses, but then we increased the rents significantly while keeping the operating expenses the same, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't really any increase in the operating expenses, so now it's at like more of a 35 or 40% operating expenses number.
And so what did you do to estimate your market rents or your expected rents? Because, and then kind of secondly, part of that question is what made them $850 instead of $795?
Yeah. So what we used for the market rents from the beginning and what we actually got was just through property management. So looking at comps down the street, there was a couple of apartment buildings down the street which were recently renovated, had the same renovation style and type that we were going for. So I kind of looked at those comps There's a lot of other comps. If you pull up the building, there's a lot of other comps in the area that are at $300 or $400, but they don't take professional photos. They're doing really crappy renovations, right? So just looking at all the different comps and putting those on a spreadsheet and then taking the average of all of them is how we got 725. But sometimes, if you spend a little bit more money and put stainless steel and put tile instead of vinyl plank, then people are willing to pay more. And that was just with testing the market. So when the first unit was ready and we took the photos, we went to property management and we said, hey, what do you think we can get now? Because it had been 3 or 6 months, right? And she said, oh, well, I think we can actually get 850 looking at the comps today. It's like, all right, let's try it and see what happens. You can't go up anymore, so let's try it the highest and can always bring it down.
So did you put out a card that said coming soon, available soon, whatever?
Yeah, so we had like a weekend showing in 2 weekends in a row. And then people were like, oh, the building's still under renovation. We don't want to move in yet, right? Because it was unit 1 out of 20. The other 20 units were not renovated. We still had to do exterior work. So what we did was actually gave first month rent for free while we do the rest of the renovation. So that's how we were able to fill those first couple of units, because you don't want them sitting vacant for 3 or 6 months. You don't know how long the renovation is going to be. So
How many did you do at that level first?
we tested 2, and then I said, okay, stop until we test the market and know how much we should spend, and then you can look at it on a dollar wise. Like, okay, am I going to spend $6,000 or $9,000, depending on
Yeah, so that's really important, right? You've got to test the market, because he may have found out that he's putting too much in per unit. He could actually get that for $2,000 less. So you don't want to do everything all at once. You want to slowly kind of test it, see what you can get for that, and then kind of make adjustments from there.
Yeah.
So,
And then once we got that first unit filled, then I gave green light to do the other renovate the
So you're saying you tested, so I'm doing the same thing on an apartment building. So instead of redoing all the units quickly, you tested with 2 separate variations. So different floors.
Was the same variation because the stuff was already there. So they bought 2 fridges, 2 stoves. We just tested 2 units.
Oh, like white versus.
No, there was no difference. They were both like that.
but he did 2 instead of doing 10. You know what I mean? So he tested the market and see what he can get.
Yeah, so I had 4 units vacant, let's say.
Gotcha.
2 of them I didn't touch them. The first 2 I renovated, put $8,000 into each unit. Okay, what is the market telling me? Am I making good return on my $8,000 investment?
Right.
If I'm not, then okay, I have the other 2 units and the other units after that to adjust accordingly. Yeah.
Do you have your own construction company that you travel with, or do you have to employ people locally?
Everybody's local. So property management's local, construction crew's local. Because I have I started with the single family home side, so I kind of built my team around that. And all these people who are helping me with this are from the single family home side. They had never done apartment buildings before, but they're doing a good job.
We have
Oh, sorry.
yeah, whatever.
My bad.
No, go ahead.
So if you hadn't minimized your exposure doing that, and let's say those 2 units didn't work out at the higher price point, would you just have like renovated the other 18 with less money? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I would have just kept dropping the rent until I figured out, okay, this one rents for $800. Well, then it doesn't really make sense. And I would look at the numbers. Okay, it doesn't really make sense anymore to spend $8,000. Let me spend $6,000.
Yep.
Don't do stainless steel. Don't put in brand new appliances. Let's just paint the ones we have.
And did you have like a break point you gradiated down to where it's like you're just barely even improving it, or
Say that again.
like did you have a point where you did like a minimum amount that even if you couldn't get what you would bet, you had a minimum what you were going to put into the units kind of thing?
Not really, because some of the units did have like flooring kind of like this already in place. So we were like, okay, we don't need to go and put new tile flooring and rip up all this good flooring. So yeah, some units we're going to go in. There's a unit that vacated last week, and yeah, we're just going to repaint it and put new appliances in, and that's it. So yeah, I'm not going to make every single unit just like this, because it's just not going to be worth the money to rip out a whole good unit. These units had the black and white tile flooring, so I was like, okay, this needs to go. Let me spend a little more and put the tile in, etc.
Yeah, a piece of advice for me is that I think a lot of the times you think about rehabbing a single family home, so you're going to go in and flip that home, right? So you're going to redo everything. But with apartment buildings, if you go in with the thought that you're going to do 100% of the units exactly the same, you're probably going to lose out a little bit. It's always best to kind of test, and I think sometimes you're going to go in, you're going to raise the rents on the current tenants, and they're going to pay that, and you're not going to put $1 into that unit. and then your ROI, goes through the roof on that. So from the apartments that we walk, you may walk through the same floor plan and have 5 different variations, because on this one they just painted the cabinets, on this one they haven't done anything, on this one they did a full remodel, and it really just is what the market kind of bears at that time, and it's a progression.
Yeah, because also for that, like the previous owner had renovated some of the units super nice, new flooring, stainless steel appliances, and then he would put it on the market. He's like, oh no, I'm not getting the rent. Well, because you didn't take professional photos. People are walking up this janky staircase to get to their unit. They're not going to pay the rent that you want, right? So, but renovating the exterior, making it a community.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, in the back. Sorry.
You said your prime manager did professional photos. I mean, it sounds like you chose a good manager. How did you vet them out? Do they work full time on your unit, or is this property manager working on multiple multi-family units?
Yeah, so this is their first apartment building they ever had done. And it was a smaller building, so I decided to use them. How did I find them? I called every single property management company in Memphis, downloaded a list of questions online about what questions to ask a property management company, and then asked all of them. And then whoever had the same, whoever vibed with me the most or had the best answer was the one who got the job.
You know what, if you email me, or if anyone emails me, I have a pretty lengthy questionnaire that I use. It's 3 or 4 pages long. I've got no problem sharing it. And you'll find that when you send it out to property management companies, some won't even answer you, and some will fill it out, and you'll get a lot by that. I do think that you do have to be able to gel, kind of like what he said, with your property management company. He may use a different one because he has a different relationship with that property management company. I think the relationship and how you guys work together is just as important as their experience, because some just work differently, But I have no problem sharing that. If you email me, I'll send that out to you.
And have you noticed also, I suppose you email this, like, so actually have all the questions already answered?
Yep.
Common list of questions, is that like a point to say the argument by the manager, or do you have to talk to them more, even personality?
I always call first, so half of them are not going to call, and then out of the other half of them are, not going to have time for you, or not going to be able to answer questions. So you're left to only a couple of property management companies yet left. Then it's who do you gel with the most, and who's really, explain to them what you're trying to do, and if they're, excited and ready to go and have other things to input into your strategy, then that is the right company for you.
Just because they have the answers to your questions doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of property management companies that have tons of units, so they're very well prepared on that end, but I like to throw in a question or two in there that is kind of hidden, that is not a general question, to make sure they answer and they actually read through my questionnaire, not a questionnaire, or go to their frequently asked questions to see if they're detailed enough, because I'm a detail-oriented person, so I want to make sure they have attention to detail. So I always try and throw a curveball in there to see if they're actually paying attention. So. Sorry? I think reviews, especially with property management, can be skewed because you have reviews from actual owners, who are us, and then actual residents. And if you have a third-party property management company going into a property that we need to add value to and get managing a little bit better, you're going to have pissed off tenants, right? So you've got to take that with a grain of salt, in my opinion. Yeah.
You're going to touch a little on the turnkey works and that kind of thing with apartments.
Did it what?
Are you going to touch on the turnkey operation? How you guys sell? Do you guys finance or things like that?
Yeah, we can talk about that after.
Yeah, we'll have networking afterwards for 45 minutes or so. So if anyone wants to learn about Antoine's turnkey business, then you're more than welcome to talk to them then.
Found the deal. Okay, good question. So, how did I find the deal? So, again, I already have a team and a business in Memphis, right? And that was all just residential side. I had never done anything, not even a duplex in Memphis, only single family homes. So I kind of used that, went to LoopNet, took every single broker who has something listed in Memphis, called every single one of them, and then just gave them my story and what I'm looking for. So, hey, my name is Antoine Martel. I flip 100 homes a year in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm looking for apartment buildings, 20 units or greater, under $2 million in these neighborhoods, right? Then put those people on a list, and every 2 weeks just recall them and be like, hey, my name's Antoine Martel, you know, repeat the same exact thing and tell them exactly what you're looking for. And I did that for 6 months straight. I had like a list of 10 big brokers who were doing a lot of volume. And then just so happened one Thursday I call this guy and say, hey, it's me again, just wondering if you have anything. Again, my criteria is this, this, and this. He said, hey, actually, just talked to an owner today, he's looking to sell, I'll send you the details in the morning. He sent me an email that's like, literally just 6 lines of text. It's like 20 unit building, 1 bedroom, 1 bath units, rents are $400 to $700 and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, you have to make an offer before you can even see the financials. And I was like, okay, well, based on what you're giving me, my offer is $1 million. And that's gotten under contract, got the financials back, and that's how we got the deal.
Jeff, do you have a question?
Do you use any software to manage your general contractors? Kind of a general question, not specifically to this apartment. I guess that's hard.
No, not really.
Okay. Being out of state, I'm always trying to find ways to.
So I hired a project manager who manages all the renovations, because I have 35 renovations going on, right?
Wow.
So in each market that I hire somebody, and on each deal they get a piece of the pie. So they manage, that's their, because then they can drive around and check on, take photos, send them to me, but then I am hands off. I do use a CRM though. I use Zoho CRM. So that's good to track everything big picture.
When you offer the price for 1 million, how did you know what's the top?
Yeah.
How did you arrive to 1 million?
So all they told me was, I wish I had the, but they told me it was like the gross rental income, here's the expenses, and then you kind of just plug that into a spreadsheet, and you see the gross income, here's the expenses, and then here's the guesstimated debt service. Here's my cash on cash return. So it was very little information. They were asking for 1.1, and kind of also looking at how much, you know, buying it at $50K per unit, and the rents I could increase to $700. So it kind of, there wasn't much for me to do. I kind of had to make an offer and put it under contract to get more information.